Hey, welcome to another video. So in this video we'll do something like this drag and drop functionality where we can drag and drop cards in between these lists. To give quick recap, last video we did this list CRUD where we can create these lists, update and delete. So we can create and pretty much delete these lists as well. So from now onward we'll create these cards and update these by dragging and dropping them among these lists. So let's get started. So in order to drag and drop, I have used this Vue Draggable package. So to install this, just run command npm install Vue Draggable. So let's go to terminal and run this command. So I've already run and this got installed. Alright, so let's switch to Sublime Text. Okay, so let's go to single board view. Alright, so in single board view we have this view, and inside this we have another component for this single card. So these cards inside the board. Let's open up console and inside view. So we have this structure. So this is whole single board, and inside here we have this board card. So yeah, just to make thing organized, I've used this kind of structure. Okay, so here we have defined that, and inside here we are passing the list. So let's go to that board card dot view. So everything will be happening inside this. Okay, so first off we'll create the card. So in order to create card, it's like what we did in last video where we can create, update and delete a list. So that will be same. So in order to avoid typing all this, so I've created this behind the scenes. So there is simple vtext field and add card button, these two. So we have defined we'll only show this if the list id equals to edit card id, and otherwise if that is not equals, we will display this add card button. So if else. Okay, so when someone clicks on this add card button, we are making this edit card id equals to id of the list. So add card button will be only one in every list. So if we click here, this form should be in edit mode, not this mode. So in order to check that, I've used the list id. So if list id matches, then we'll show this form, and like this. And when we hit escape, it should go out. It should go out like that. So in order to do that, what I have done here is, so in this upper div, when someone hits escape key, I'm making that edit card id null. So which we made it list id here, I made this null here. Alright, so in text field, same thing. We have defined this vmodal card data and given a name, and when someone hits enter after entering something inside there, we are calling create card method. So we need to define this vmodal. So we might have defined like this, just card name or something like that. So the reason why I've defined it inside this object is in future we might need some other data regarding cards, so that in that case it would be easier to just pass that. Okay, so with that said, let's switch to this create card method. Alright, so in order to create card, we are passing the list id from here, and so that we know in which list we need to create card. So same thing, we are making this edit card equals to list id to show the form. Also then we are making the Axios AJAX request to create the card. So this is our endpoint, and we are passing card data dot name, which is defined here. So card data dot name, and we are pushing that card which we get from server to the existing card stack, and making card data null and edit ID also null. So that is the create card part that I've added behind the scenes. So if you taste, just type in lol. Yeah, so it appears here. Okay, so that is the adding card part. Now let's set up the view draggable. So make sure that got downloaded. Okay, so now let's set up this view draggable. So first off, you need to import that. So import draggable from view draggable and use it as a component here inside board card.view. So if you are planning to use this draggable component all over your project, you can include this component in your root instance or root component. So for now it is okay, we are just going to use here. Okay, so now we have access to this draggable component inside this board card.view component. So so we'll include it here. So previously it was just like up to this line, so we wrapped this whole thing inside. Yeah, we pretty much wrapped this whole thing inside our draggable component. So this is whole component, and we wrapped this thing inside draggable component, and by looping we got these ID, so these number of components, so single board component, and we wrapped each component inside draggable. So if you see structure here, this is individual board card, and inside here, inside vlist, there is draggable. And also one additional, I've used this list ID, wrapped the whole thing inside list ID. So looks like this beautify component doesn't seem to work accurately while grabbing these card ID. So I've just wrapped this whole thing inside list ID and loop through this list ID, list element li element to generate each card like this, each card. Okay, so that is the structure, and inside this draggable component you need to use this cards or source. So we are looping through each cards, and then so that you have to use like this cards, and also the option groups. So you can give any name here. So if you don't use group, it will not, it will just drag between these two, not drag between here and here. That's why you need to give this group. And I've given a style min height equals to 15 pixel. So the reason why I gave that is, so if you remove that and save, just let's see. So for example, here are no cards. So if we try to drag and drop it here, it will not do that because it doesn't have any empty space to drop. So here I've created that empty space of 15 pixels. Now we can drag and drop like this. And on add, so this is the view draggable event. So on addition, we will call this on add method, which we'll look in a moment. Also, in order to track the list ID, so this will be the list ID. So this card will have different list ID than this card and this. So in order to track that list ID, so for example, if we drag this from here to here, we need to track the list ID and card ID so that we can make the AJAX request to server and update that in our database. So in order to do that, we need to have access to the list ID of place where we dropped that particular card and the card ID itself. Also we need to have the list ID of the from to, like from where we dropped it and to where we dropped that particular card, so that we can remove it from that list ID and move it to another one. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so let's move further. And yeah, in order to track this card ID, I've defined attributes like card ID and list ID. Alright, so let's go to this onAdd method. So here this method accepts the event by default, and yeah, so we are grabbing from list ID, so from where we dropped it and to where we dropped it to list ID and the card ID itself. So let's see it in console. So for example, we dropped it from here to here and we see this event. So here we have access to these different things, so from where we dropped it and to where we dropped it, and source element, everything information inside here. So we use that information from get attribute, and name of attribute is list ID, which we defined right over here, this attribute. Similarly, we grab this attribute to grab the card ID. Alright, so now we have all information. Now we can start updating it on server. So we need two methods, one method to update it and to delete it. So we need to delete. So for example, we drag and drop these transformers from this board 1 to web tab. So in that event, we need to remove these transformers from this board ID board 1 and update it in here, or directly we can update the ID of that. Yeah, so yeah, we don't need to delete, we just need to update the ID. Okay, so let's take a reference of our API. So here, in order to update card, we have this update method. So let's go to that card controller. So here we have that update method. Okay, looks like we have a lot of parameter to pass. So what we can do here is we don't need these two ID. Yeah, so if someone passes the card ID, so while updating we have access to card ID, always we have to access the card ID, so we don't need to grab these board ID and list ID in order to update and delete. So while storing we need them, but while updating we don't, because we know which card we are updating. So we can just simply pass card ID, and here we don't need to find board, instead we can just find that particular card. So here we can check if user ID is not equals to, we can access the card list board, yeah, like this. So from card we can access the list, and from list we can access the board. Yeah, that should work totally fine. And we don't need to do like this, yeah, just this will do. Yeah, it's much cleaner. So here we don't need in destroy as well. Similarly, find the card, Same thing here, just replace it. Okay, so it's much cleaner, I guess. So we need to update in web.php, and while updating we don't need, yeah, we can just do like this. So card and then pass card id, similarly card and card id to destroy as well. So in order to show as well, we don't need all this stuff. Okay, update it with card id. Okay, now let's go to our front and make that request. Okay, so looks like here we don't need to make any of these required, because while updating list, yeah, we may not pass that name. Okay, so let's test that and go to our front API, and I'll create two methods to import card, update card and delete card. So create card already in place, let's create one. So update card and then destroy. Yeah, while doing these we of course need to pass card id. And here we need to call these two methods from here, or we might call these. So first let's send the request to update the card. So axios dot put card, and then here we need to pass this card id. Looks like we need to accept this data as well. So list id will this thing will be updating. So from here we need to access data dot list id. Okay, just pass list id here. Yeah, we'll refactor later. For now, just let's make these work, and then we can respond to the change from server. And let's copy and paste it here. This will be the delete request, and in this case we don't need any information. Okay, so I think this is it. So here we can call that this dot update card, and then we'll pass the card id itself, card id, and then we need to pass to list id. Yeah, so we are concerned with where we put it, not from where we dragged it. So we'll need this to list id. Okay, so let's see if it works, or let's go through error if any. So I will drag this new card from board 1 to web tab. Alright. Okay, I always forgot to import those classes. So yeah, we need to import this card and we are good to go. There we go. Okay, silly mistake. Let's try once more. Refresh. Okay, again I'm dragging it from here to web tab. Okay, error again. Okay, looks like we have slight error here in our backend. So here in our list.php, sorry, inside card.php. So here we defined list and we need to define the foreign key as well. So it is lists.id. So the convention in Eloquent is if there is list.id, we don't need to provide it, but our field is slightly different, so we need to provide it. So with that fix, we need to also make here. So previously we are chaining through these relationships like this, but we just need to do like this. So we're accessing card, then list, then board, and then user ID field inside this board. So similarly make these changes here and in so. Okay, so with that I think it should work. So let's take a look. Okay, actually it's lists ID. Okay, so here it is lists ID. So yeah, we need to make, that's why we need to follow one convention, singular or plural, so in order to avoid these kind of mistakes. Okay, now it should work. Let's clear out everything. Let's drag and drop from here to there. Alright, I think we got successful response. So now let's refresh and it should persist here. It shouldn't go here. Refresh. There we go. So we made it dynamic. So that's it. We can drag and drop from here to there. Let's make this thing empty. Okay, there are 4, 3 and 3. Let's refresh. There we go, 4, 3, 3.